So what makes happiness? What gives us fulfillment, joy, all these things that we so desperately chase in our culture? How do we generate it? How do we build a lifestyle where we have happiness all the time? And in a world that seems to be so obsessed with doing things that are supposed to make us happy, a world where we're so preoccupied and always moving forward towards this thing called happiness. Now, what's interesting is our culture seems to have a message about how to find this. In fact, I think our culture is obsessed with finding happiness. How do we have a better body so we can be more happy? How do we have the relationships, the sex, the friendships? How do we have the right status? How do we have the right job, make the most amount of money? Because that's all gonna make us happy. What's interesting is when we have a culture obsessed with finding happiness, that would equate to the theory, at least, that there's many, many unhappy people. And when there's many unhappy people, there's a huge population of people in pain. Now, the saddest part about this is because there's a huge population of people in pain, we have an entire market, an entire industry selling to people a cure for that pain. And whenever you have too much of that, there's usually a massive lie being told.
Maida Kai. Maida cheese. Okay, hold on one second. Hold on.
So this is interesting because this is a video about finding true happiness, true fulfillment. Not just happy moments, not just parts of our life where we feel happy and then always need some sort of stimuli to get there, but how to find true fulfillment of self.
You're good.
And I guess you could say the great irony of all this is this is broadcasted to you while showing a montage of my life, my kids, and the different joyous moments that come around in that. And don't get me wrong, the disjointed family moments that I have throughout my life are truly amazing, and they're some of the most happy moments in my life. But what I want to articulate here is there's something more to all of this. And in fact, this idea of stacking up happy moments, or this obsession with experience, and the obsession of what our culture tells us will make us happy, which is like power, money, sex, or if you're into the great movie Enter the Void by Gaspar Noé, I forget what the club was called where it all takes place, you should watch the movie. See, true fulfillment, what allows these happy moments to have meaning, to have value, and also which gives me a life where I can have happiness independent of certain experiences, this comes from within, and this comes from doing inner work. So first things first is let's look at why there is so much unhappiness. Why is there this market of people obsessed to try and get happy, to desperately try and get there? And our culture has given us all sorts of situations. It could be the way we live, the way we work, our population densities, competition, isolation, alienation from others. There's a massive overstimuli in literally everything we look at. If we want to have a human connection, if we want to have a relationship, if we want to date, if we want to choose a diet and how to be healthy, we are constantly bombarded with too much. So there's no doubt that our culture gives us many different things that causes unhappiness, stuff that we all feel and we can all relate with. One of the things that makes us most unhappy is the solution that is being sold to us. It tells us in so many different ways that more happy moments, more experiences, more status, more power, more solutions that come from society, winning, being the best, being on top are going to make us happy. If we can have the perfect vacation, to have the shot of us overlooking a lake, having the right job so that we can feel like a complete person. We can have the more money, the more sex, the more power, the relationships we want, the volume that we want. And if we can have all these things, we can generate more of it, we can control it, we can keep it from ever hurting us, then we're going to be happy. See, and this is the trap that we're all in. So there are many problems with this, and a couple that people get stuck in are, first, this doesn't work. This creates more of a problem. The more that we try and fit the image of happiness, the more we look to find what looks like happiness when we're motivated by our pain, the more we hit a wall. When we try and hoard or own happiness, collect it, so that we don't have to feel pain, especially a specific pain like loss or rejection, we become a slave to that pain. We are shaped by our fear to that pain. And our whole model, our whole way, image, and definition of happiness is based on our fear of experiencing that pain. Another is that there's a great value to pain. There's a great value to the things that we fear and never want to go through again. They could be loss, they could be death, they could be divorce. I list them all the time, but they're intense pains that we go through in the human experience. They're almost unavoidable. We're guaranteed to have them. And although we want to get out of that pain as quick as possible, we also need to understand that there's a value in going through that pain. Pain, tragedy, trauma, confusing moments that make us go through mind-bending experiences have always been throughout human history. Our emotions, our psyche, our sense of self, our happiness came from an evolution of humanity that always included pain. There's great lessons in pain, and there's great lessons in how it changes you, how it shapes you, and how you re-find happiness, peace, enjoyment, compassion, all these different things that you were born into in innocence, but refinding them again after experiencing life. And part of life is going to be pain. But one of the most important things that heals us from pain and that gives us happiness, that allows us to have this beautiful range of emotions and compassion and so on, is human connection, is how we interact with each other, and is our closeness. And I want you to think about this, really think about it. And let's look at this. Let's look at how people deal with pain, this whole phenomenon of what we're talking about, and how we promote and push upon happiness. This constant self-promotion, this image being put upon us constantly, and we're all a part of it, of people self-broadcasting, saying, look at me, no, I'm happy, I guarantee you, please believe that I'm happy. I am never going to be in pain again if I'm standing on this mountaintop, if I'm around furry animals, if I'm doing this, no, I'm happy, I guarantee you there's no way I'm gonna be in pain again. The obsession with that image, and then the obsession of us seeing that image and believing it's an answer for us to be happy, goes to show us how important it is for us to connect with each other. Here we have an entire culture of people trying to connect with one another in a superficial way. In our unhappiness of life, or however we got there, we're desperately trying to reach out and connect with other people in a world and a society where that's very difficult. See, how we evolved and how we came about developing all of these emotions was around a group of people that we knew every day, and we had tremendous hardships. We got unhealthy, we got a cut, it got infected, all these different things. We couldn't find food. And now we have a culture and society that is moving so fast, is moving all over the place, and it's crazy. We have opportunities that are beyond our wildest dreams. I mean, we can take pictures of ourselves climbing a mountain and looking beautiful. But in that, there's a huge disconnection and a lack of fulfillment. We pass by thousands of people a day we don't know. We're supposed to ignore people. We're supposed to ignore emotions. We're supposed to, rather than think, oh man, I want to talk to this person and I hope they care about me, to ignore that and put up a wall. To have strength, to have power, to have identity is something which means we have to protect ourselves. We can't be hurt again. We cannot be rejected. We cannot be left. We cannot fail. We cannot look like that, and we will never look like that if we have the opportunity to constantly show ourselves off. And so what a crazy cycle. We have the inevitable pains of life because they happen. We're supposed to. We've always had them in all of our evolution. We want to get out of that pain. We never want to feel that pain again. And rather than going through it and having to develop ourselves, we have a world where it's very easy to do all the things that are supposed to make us happy. We can look at what everybody else seems to be doing with their pain, which is to get happy, to get tough, to get stronger, to get dominant, to be the best in society. And this thing where it almost guarantees that if we do that, we're going to have less pain. And in that, we grow up in our lives. We become adults, we become middle-aged, we become old men and women who don't have the skills to deal with life on life's terms. Having happy moments is an amazing thing. Having the money you deserve, having the recognition, the status that you deserve is also a good thing. But the idea that we can have that without the foundations that actually make us happy is the curse and the plague of our culture. See, the more that we take steps on what we think is going to make us happy and we're convinced it will make us happy and it doesn't, we become obsessed with it. We become slaves to it. And we develop this culture that we actually live in right now, where in order to find happiness, independence, freedom, identity of being a man or a woman means that you look the best, you get skinnier, you take steroids, you get muscles, you have people obsessed about you that you don't know, giving you the respect that you desired from probably your closest friends and can be solved that way. I want to share a secret with you, and part of the lie of the modern day self-help, of what it tries to sell you over and over again, is that the road to happiness is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And literally every civilization and higher thinker of those civilizations has come up with different ways to do that. One of the most important factors in you being a happy person is being able to include your entire life in that. Meaning, in order to express truly to the world, you have to truly be yourself, which means you have to know yourself. It doesn't mean that you get to be yourself as the image of what you think society is, but you have to be yourself. And when you do that, there's a second component to all of this, of where you have to experience, know, and be able to handle the entire range of human emotions. That there actually is a value to sadness, there is a value to pain and tragedy, there is a value to loss and to failure. And that if we are going to be happy in our real lives, in our day-to-day lives, we have to be able to bond on those things, and we have to be able to unify on those things. True inner confidence in all of that mess. And how do we do that without being dependent on happy moments, highlight real lives, status, power, and dominance over others? And this is where it gets tricky. So what is the solution in all of this? Where do we get an answer? And we understand that we live in a world that we're not finding happiness. We desire it, we crave it, we want it, and we may have done all the right things and never really been fully fulfilled with it. We just have those moments that pass us by and then they stop working. And see, this is where it gets very interesting, and where in coaching, I'm able to get a result with guys just over and over again, but that's because we can live a certain way of life over a long period of time. And the answer goes like this. We need to be able to take what actually makes us happy, which is part of our nature and our true being and our sense of self, and truly live it within this culture. Meaning, our culture says it's important to look good, it's important to have money, it's important to do whatever it is that we want to do. We need to recognize that as the hat we have to wear in the society that we need to live in. Just because that will not make us happy doesn't mean that we get to throw away our culture and completely rebel against it. This is a huge problem when we get into self-help. Whenever somebody goes deep into self-exploration, they realize all the different things that haven't worked for them in their life, and they think that that means that they can throw it away, or because it caused them pain, they can rebel against it. Whatever culture that you live in, whatever things created some of the problems that you have, you need to find a solution that works within that. And happiness is one of those things. We evolved to be happy. We evolved to be able to work through and sort through our problems. We evolved to live in communities where people knew us. We evolved to have all of those things, meaning that we need to seek a solution within the framework of our culture. If I follow our current cultural narrative, which says if I get to do these things and look this good and have all this stuff, I'm gonna be happy, I will be sure to be unhappy. Despite what you think, there's no real hack. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You will experience unhappiness if you build your values in life upon that. But in that time, can we take time for ourselves? Can we take time to discover meaning in ourselves? And where does meaning come from? And our higher purposes and higher thoughts. In our intimate social lives, we stop making it about power and struggle and getting something and not somebody winning, and basically getting rid of this scarcity mentality which says that we always have to protect ourselves from being hurt or in pain. In our sexual lives, we learn that sex is a great human function. It's something that we shouldn't taboo so much and not talk about, but it's vital for our sense of self and who we are. It's our identity as well as an experience that we get to have. But we start seeking it in ways where we have true connection. We start understanding that when it comes to things that have to do with sex, if we repress our taboos, we're just forcing them to go deeper into our psyche, affecting our deeper beliefs, becoming different shames, and yet maintaining the secret that we can't talk about. In the many, many years that I've been coaching and working with men non-stop, this is something which is vital. And if you're watching this video and what you want to change right now, it needs to come from you. You need to stop rejecting it. You need to stop chasing the social narrative. You need to start learning how to empower yourself. And I get it that one single YouTube video won't get you there. I wish I could make that video. I wish I could create that PDF. All I know how to do is work with people as I have for the last 16 years. And if you want to get involved in that, there's a couple things that I recommend for you. So number one, there's the Rising Man community, which is something where you get a ton of different courses and you interact with me on the different calls and so on. And it's literally the best starting place, but it costs some money. If you want to do something that is more affordable, but less effective, but you want to dip your feet in the water, I totally understand. You can download the Rebuild Challenge, which is PDFs and videos and whatnot, just by putting in your email address. Now, if you do that, you're going to get a ton of information that's going to guide you along this process. However, what I've seen change people in the last 16 years, and I have thousands of guys that I've worked with who've come to me with serious problems around addiction, sexual dysfunction, massive crippling divorces. I have had a huge list of guys with incomprehensible problems move into a point of excellence. What those guys did, and to get to a point of excellence in their lives to where their lives are independent and free, they had to join the communities. They had to get on the calls, they had to interact, they had to really work at those different things. And that's where I'd say the Rising Man is the community to start with. And here's the real thing to this all, is that we're all on a journey to change. We all have the drive and the urge to find happiness, to find our best lives. And we all have the ability, capability to live that life. In our modern culture, it gets weird. There's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of things in our way. But if there's one thing that I'm good at in life, it is teaching people how to find this over and over and over again. And there is a process to it, and you can do it. My way is not the only way by any means. This is something that humanity's been doing over and over again, but I'll tell you this, the masses never do it. And it is truly the road less traveled. And if you are going to take this road, if you are going to find a life of personal excellence, of true freedom, and of happiness, you are going to be a man or a woman that is walking a rare, rare road. I just wanted to thank you so much for watching this entire video. It's so cool, and so much of what I do in this whole job is to spread a message that you can be an excellent person and be a better person Support the channel, give it the like, the thumbs up, leave comments, interact with me and so on, and of course, subscribe. That being said, if you're on this journey, it's a tough one, and like I said, it tends to be a lone one. One of the best things that you can always do for yourself is get around a community that seeks out personal excellence. All right, and on that note, we'll see you.